What's going on, guys? Welcome to Move Those Chains. I'm going to start doing some shorter recap episodes of some specific games instead of doing one super long recap of every game, because who likes listening to just me read off some stats? I think this will be more interesting, and I can have some guests on just talking about some specific games. So let's say you're for this instance, I'm maybe a Bills fan. Maybe this episode will be pretty interesting, but maybe I'm talking about the Chargers, and that's not so interesting. But yeah, going off the Bills and Dolphins, that's the game I'm going to dive into. That game, Miami took that one 21-19, and it was probably the most hyped up game of the week, and it lived up to the hype. I mean, both teams came into the game 2-0. Buffalo played the first 2 weeks looking like the Super Bowl favorite that we all thought them to be. I still have them as my Super Bowl pick, even after today. I think many people will too. And Miami improved to 3-0, and they look really good. They look legit. Mike McDaniels is really coaching well there. Tua is firing on all cylinders, and their two star receivers, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, are fast, man. They are really, really fast. They're game-changing fast. And yeah, a lot of defenses are going to have trouble slowing them down, as we've seen the first few weeks. First, really, in Baltimore in that fourth quarter comeback, and now against Buffalo. They're just a team that has abused speed really to their advantage. I mean, they have two of the fastest guys in the league on the same team, both running routes, and defenses just can't really stop it. The Bills were without Micah Hyde, as they will be for the rest of the season because he's out with a neck injury. The team announced the other day. But yeah, this is their first test without him, and I think that speed game is really something that was hard for them to stop. Jalen Waddle, he always plays well against them, but yeah. We also saw, Josh Allen. Yeah, Josh Allen played really well. He always looks good. Started the game with a touchdown. I think the stat was like 8 straight games with a first or opening drive touchdown. So they continue to start games really, really hot, which in the NFL, it's an understatement how important that is. It's like being an MLB pitcher and how important a first pitch strike is. It's hard. It's easy to get out in front. It's hard to get out in front. So it's really, really important to get out in front early and to hold that lead throughout the game, which obviously the Bills were unable to do today, but in general they've been pretty good at it. The Dolphins bounced back. It was a 14-14 game up to... Actually, let's see. What was it? I don't even know. Yeah, it was a 14-14 game at half. The Bills kicked the field goal in the third quarter to go up 17-14. And then some craziness happened. The Dolphins went and scored a game-winning touchdown, or what is now the game-winning touchdown. And then they were backed up to their own, 1-yard line. And they elected to throw it with, I think, about 1:40 left, which stopped the clock. So the Dolphins were forced to punt with about 1.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, down a touchdown, or up a touchdown from their 4-yard line or something. And Miami, the punter had only had one punt in his entire career blocked in 14 years. He ended up punting it off his special teams back, his butt, and it ended up going out the back of the end zone for a safety, so it's being tagged as the butt punt. And pretty funny, Mark Sanchez actually commented and said, "Hey, that's my thing. That's my thing. Don't steal it." So that was kind of funny. I think the other topic worth noting in this one was the Tua Tagovailoa injury. We saw Tua get hit at the end of the first half, and then I think late in the second quarter, we saw Tua get hit, and on TV they showed him stand up and basically wobbled it. He took about 4 or 5 steps towards the sideline or towards the line and just did not look healthy at all. He kind of stumbled, looked like he had some head injury, and so his linemen started to hold him up, and coaches and trainers ran onto the field and helped him off. I think from that video alone, and honestly just watching the game, myself at least, I thought he was done for the day. I think any health person or anyone concerned for another individual would think that he was hurt and done for the day. However, he came back and started the third quarter, which to me, even now, looking back at it, a few hours removed, is nuts. I think that's crazy. But hey, it just speaks to how tough Tua is and his build and his character as a football player. The NFLPA also announced that they were launching an investigation into how the Dolphins handled the concussion protocol with Tua, because that was wacky how Tua even ended up back in the game after what looked to be like a serious head injury. So we'll see what comes of all of that. But yeah, who knows, honestly. As for the result of the game, the Dolphins took this one at home against the Bills. I think these two teams are going to be the runaway in the AFC East. I don't know that the Patriots are going to be that team, and I certainly don't think the Jets are really going to compete. I mean, they lost today, dropping them to 1-2. I mean, they looked bad last week against the Browns up until the last couple minutes. So, I mean, the AFC East is really going to come down to those two teams, the Bills and the Dolphins, and they don't meet again until week 15, and that one's going to be in Buffalo. So if these two teams can go down the stretch and make a run for it, and I think that game's going to be an amazing football game, and it'll probably get flexed to Sunday Night Football if it's not already there. And I just wanted to look up the Dolphins' schedule and the Bills' schedule and just go, just see maybe week by week, and we'll think through some record projections. So for Miami, if it'll load, they're 3-0 right now. Going into week 4 at Cincinnati, I think they can take that game. The Bengals don't look too good. So that's one win. Then they play at the Jets. I'll give them that. Minnesota, Pittsburgh. I think Detroit's going to give them a run. I really like Detroit. I think Detroit's a really good football team. They just can't win a close game. Kind of carries over from last year a little bit. Chicago doesn't look great. Cleveland with Deshaun Watson by then, so they'll be a different football team. And then their bye week at 11. They come off Houston, San Francisco. Yeah, the second they come off their bye week, and they got a tough stretch. Week 13, they got a tough month of December. At San Francisco, at Chargers, at Buffalo, at home against Green Bay. And then they finish up with 2 cupcake games at New England and versus New York against the Jets. So I could see the Dolphins finishing with only like 2-3 losses in that range. And let's pull up the Bills' schedule and see what we think of that. Because I really do think that these two teams are going to come down to the wire. It could come down to that Week 15 matchup being the decider. So Buffalo goes to Baltimore next week. That'll be a tough ask. They have a tough next 3 weeks at Baltimore, at home against Pittsburgh, and then they travel to Kansas City. Kansas City is obviously, or that's going to be a great game. That's going to be a rematch of the AFC Championship. And I'm sure we've all seen the picture of Stephon Diggs one too many times where he's standing on the field after they lost with hands on his helmet and doing that. Out of the bye week, they play at home against Green Bay, at the Jets, home against Minnesota. They also play Cleveland, at Detroit, at New England. And then the end of their season is they play the Jets and they play the Dolphins in Week 15. That's the matchup I've been talking about. Then they play at Chicago, at Cincinnati, and at home against New England. Maybe Cincinnati figures it out by then, but I mean, if they don't, then they end up playing 3 winnable games at the end of the season. They already have 1 loss. Maybe I have them losing 1, 2. For this team, I really only see 2 more losses on here. And that Baltimore, Kansas City. I think Kansas. You know what? No, I think I'm going to take Buffalo. I think Buffalo is going to beat Kansas City in Week 6. I think that's a revenge game in Kansas City. I think they're up to that task. But there's got to be another loss in here outside of the Miami game. Or I'm not counting the Miami game, but I think there's a loss in there as well. And I'm gonna give the Bills that home game. So we'll see. We'll see how the tiebreakers work out at the end of the year. But I really do think that Week 15 matchup is going to be one to look out for, and I'm excited to see how the AFC East comes down to the last couple weeks. But yeah, I'll see y'all tomorrow with whichever other teams I decide to break down. So yeah, let me know if anyone wants to hop on as a guest, talk some football about their teams. And yeah, let's get it. Peace.